My name is Ravi Vora and I'm a lecturer from the Academic Department of Surgery in Birmingham, and together with Marco Okolani from the Birmingham Business School we're going to present our study regarding the lifetime cost to English students of borrowing to invest in a medical degree. I was asked by a friend if her daughter should go to medical school. I was taken aback by this, but her reasoning was based on the widely reported rising student debt, and this would be further confounded by the fact that, as a medical student, she should be at university for at least 5 years. The mother also observed that female doctors earn significantly less than their male contemporaries, and she was worried that her daughter, by going to medical school, will be paying off loans for the rest of her life. When I started looking at this, I noticed that the majority of students borrow from the Student Loans Company, and under their Plan 2, which was introduced in 2012, graduates will only repay debt when they earn more than £21,000 and pay 9% of earnings above that level. For example, if a graduate earns £25,000 in a single year, they would be expected to pay £360, i.e. 9% of £4,000, and the debt is then written off after 30 years. Importantly, the amount the graduates repay is not linked to how much they owe, which is different to most other loans. So to calculate when a graduate will pay off their debt, you need an accurate estimate of how much graduates will earn. Unfortunately, the BMA salary scales are misleading, as they do not take into account additional hours, banding supplements, sessions worked, flexible working and career breaks.
Hello, I am Marco Okolani. When Ravi approached me to research this question, we agreed that we needed the very best data. We opted to use the UK Labour Force Survey, which is the second largest UK survey after the National Census. Unlike the Census, the Labour Force Survey collects data on earnings and randomly samples about 60,000 households each and every quarter. All data are gathered by interview, either face-to-face or over the telephone. The response rate is very high for this type of survey, at around 50 to 70%. The Labour Force Survey contains a very detailed questionnaire, and it is used to calculate various social statistics, such as the UK's unemployment rate.
So using this dataset, our aim was to calculate the male and female medical graduate salary profiles, which would include their pension contributions. We then wanted to create a model for the repayment of graduate debt accrued from the Student Loans Company and the time taken to repay various levels of debt. Finally, we wanted to calculate the total amounts repaid over the lifetime of these Student Loans Company loans based on the different initial amounts of graduate debt.
We used Labour Force Survey data to calculate the average male and female salary profiles for full-time medical graduates, as illustrated here, with age along the horizontal axis and annual salary on the vertical axis. We can see that male and female salaries start out very similar upon graduation, but gradually diverge with age. Repayments to the Student Loans Company are mainly based on earnings, so this implies that the repayments made by male and female medical graduates will differ. We also carried out an analysis that included part-time graduates, and the results are available in the article. We produced these two sets of repayment profiles for male and female medical graduates. The dashed lines in each diagram show the total amount repaid. There is only one line in each diagram because repayments are based on salary and not the level of debt. The blue brackets show that in each case we have modelled 4 initial levels of debt. The lowest initial level of debt is for those who only borrowed to pay their fees. The other 3 initial levels of debt are for those who also borrowed to pay for their living costs or maintenance, and this can vary according to whether they live in London or live at home. The red arrows indicate that the only graduates who repay their debt in full are those who only borrowed to cover their fees. The tail of the red arrow shows the total amount repaid in these cases. The green arrows show that for the top 3 scenarios, graduates who also borrow for their maintenance do not repay their debt in full, because this is written off 30 years after graduation. The total repaid is the same in the 3 top scenarios, regardless of how much is borrowed, but it does actually differ by gender. The previous diagrams were based on just 4 simulations for male and female medical graduates. This particular diagram is based on many hundreds of simulations. The dashed line shows the results for males and the solid line the results for females. On the horizontal axis we show the initial level of debt upon graduation, and on the vertical axis we show the total amount repaid over a lifetime. The upward sloping sections show that for low levels of initial graduate debt, more debt means more is repaid over a lifetime. This is because smaller debts are repaid in full, so more initial debt lasts longer and is subject to more interest charges. The flat sections of these two lines show that for high levels of initial graduate debt, borrowing more does not increase the total amount that is repaid over a lifetime. This is because larger debts are never repaid in full and are written off in the 30th year after graduation. As a consequence of all this, and because female graduates on average earn less, for low levels of debt females repay more, while for high levels of debt male graduates repay more.
Please note that ours is not intended as financial advice, and the values presented here are only estimates. In addition, we have not tried to explain the underlying reasons as to why female medical graduates earn less than males. Our calculations are illustrative of medical graduates on simulated average salaries. These simulated average salaries may not represent any one individual or include all earnings. We've also had to make various assumptions to allow the models to be estimated, including, firstly, that medical graduate salaries will rise in line with inflation, secondly, that there were no early repayments and other loans were not included, and thirdly, no attempt was made to analyse the costs of failing to complete a medical degree.
So should my friend's daughter go to medical school? Well, from our analysis, we have found that medical graduates on an average salary are unlikely to repay their student loan debt in full. As female graduates earn less than their male contemporaries, it takes them longer to repay debt, so they pay more interest if they only borrow to cover fees. Due to the way the repayments are set up, as they are a fraction of earnings and they are written off at 30 years, as the amount of debt rises, male graduates will repay significantly larger amounts. However, this will be the case if a female graduate earned more than the average female or male graduate earned. We would finally like to thank the attendees of the 2014 Work and Pensions Economics Group Conference at the University of Sheffield, sponsored by the Department of Work and Pensions, and also the attendees at the Association of Surgeons of Great Britain and Ireland International Congress 2014 for their comments on this work. We'd also like to thank Professor Peter Davis, Mr. Mike Hallisey and Professor Shivanthi Homavanasingam for their constructive advice on the final manuscript.